I'm a psychologist. I study food, how people relate to food. And one of the places that they relate to food more and more is restaurants. Because as people get wealthier, they spend more money and more time eating out. And most of the world is still eating most of their meals at home, but more and more in restaurants. And the restaurant's a very special public place where people, usually people who know each other pretty well, are sitting at a table, interacting with each other and with the food. They're ordering the food, they're making decisions about what to order, and that is a very fundamental area of psychology, how people make decisions. And they are interacting with each other, they're influencing each other. So what we are interested in the psychology, and what the restaurant project here at Taylor's University is about, at Toulouse University, is to understand what is going on in the restaurant situation, how people relate to each other, how that affects what foods they eat. The social environment that people are in affects what foods they like. And if we understood what makes people like certain foods, we could be better at making them healthier, because the ideal we have is to have people like the foods that are healthy for them. And so if we can understand how the social environment and the whole situation at a restaurant influences what people eat and how they get to like food, we would make a lot of progress. So I think it's a really good idea to have a project which focuses on what's going on in restaurants, the psychology of it, the sociology of it.
It is very important to understand why people eat the way they do and what are the factors that determine and influence their behavior, their eating behavior. It's not just a matter of individual decisions and free will. An important aspect, an important determinant of why we eat the way we do is also the interactions we have with other people. In facilities such as an experimental restaurant, for instance, we can study what happens when different types of people eat together. Do they eat less? Do they eat more? When we set the tables in a different way, what happens? Do they communicate better? Do they interact better? What does it do, in effect, to their eating behavior? We know that in general the reason we eat the way we eat has a lot to do with, as I said, culture and tradition. And people with different cultural and traditional background, can we look at the way they actually behave in front of the food, how fast they eat, how much they eat, how much they enjoy the food, how much they control themselves, how much they are influenced by other people's behavior. So imagine you're sitting at a table with other people that are, I don't know, business partners or something like that. Will you adjust to their behavior? Are you going to eat a lot more than they do? Are you going to eat a lot less than they do? What will your table manners be like? Etc. and so on. All these things are factors, variables that have something to do with eating behavior and, more generally speaking, with health and public health. And if you want to implement public policies, health policies, and that are effective, you have to understand how people actually behave, not just how they should behave. In other words, nutrition and public health in the future will need more and more the social sciences.
Taylor's University and Toulouse University have decided to set up and to open a new master program in food studies. And in this frame, we are planning to set up an experimental restaurant. That's tools to develop fundamental and applied research to have a better understanding of the social, cultural determinant of the food habits. In fact, we have a lot of knowledge on the relation between one human being and food, with some modern labs doing sensorial analysis. But eating is more than that. Eating is a social event. There is social interaction. You can eat more because, and you can share the emotion. we would like to understand this dimension will allow us to develop knowledge, to open the dialogue with nutrition, with public health. And on the other side, it will allow also us to develop another dimension of gastronomy, to have an experiential dimension of gastronomy, not only with the food, but also with the environment, also with social interaction.
And this experimental restaurant of the future is to help us understand the role of social science in public health in particular. We are fortunate that to have a group of experts from the CNRS, from the University of Toulouse and CERTOP, comprising of social scientists, IT engineers, and computer scientists, to help us work on this project, what we hope to be a novel approach to understanding the role social science play in the overall public health domain, which is in terms of what we could determine what people eat and the way they do it. This project will enlighten us, hopefully, on how people make their choice, the food habits of the population, and the setup is able to compare the prospective food habits between Asians and Europeans once the restaurants is set up both in Toulouse and in Toulouse in the future. And I'm hopeful and looking forward for a fruitful collaboration and putting nutrition input into this project.
I am Vincent Simoulin, head of the CERTOP, which is a research unit in the University of Toulouse in France. And I am very pleased to tell you that our project of experimental restaurant has been granted by French national scientific authorities. This project will be implemented in the 1 to 2 next years, and it will give us a unique opportunity to make research on food habits, on health, on nutrition. And it's very important for us because it will be subjects which will be very relevant for research, but also for industry or for social needs. We hope that we will be able together to make comparisons between Asia and Europe on all these topics, on health studies, on food habits, and it will give us a unique opportunity to conduct research, world high-rank research on all these topics.
The Malaysian national research agenda and policy is evolving to adopt a more holistic approach. It is no longer going to focus on fundamental research and applied research, but is now also focusing on social innovation research. Social innovation research is becoming a critical agenda item for our national research policy. The establishment of the experimental restaurant of the future will strongly contribute towards research being done in the area of culinary sciences, food sciences, bringing the practices and behaviors of food science in Asia and also linking it to that being done in Europe and other parts of the world. The importance of this kind of work, research, is that it allows one to address a lot of the health and community issues, which includes diseases like obesity, hypertension, etc., which are linked to food and food eating behaviors of the community.